Hey YouTube fam, welcome back. This is Dark Angel's channel and I'm Shakira. I thought today we could talk about trade setups, quick trade setups for beginners that might be useful. Basically, setups using trend lines, trend channels, and one or two indicators that I'm testing out. And I wanted to show you guys a quick trade I took this morning just for funsies. And you can, well, I was using the BitGet demo account because I'm trying to understand how the platform works. And I suggest as you're testing out new platforms, if you don't understand, sorry, my cat is out here and he is shedding. Woo! Anyway, if you're not used to a specific platform or exchange that you're going to be doing your trading on, if they have a demo account like BitGet has and Femex has, definitely go ahead and do that. And I didn't put a real trade in primarily because this is a new trading setup that I'm like, all right, let me test this out, see how it works. And hey, I'm gonna say it worked out really freaking well. So next time I see the same type of thing, I'm gonna put some real money where my mouth is. Yeah. Now, if that sounds like a good time, please watch this video from the start to the end and check it out. We've got Luffy kicking it hardcore. Yeah. All right, guys. So don't, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you enjoy the content, hit the like button, smash it up, you know, whatever the kids are doing these days. You know what I'm saying? All right, cool, cool, cool. Enough, enough. All right, so check it out. So first things first, guys. As you're coming into the charts, and we've already talked about like your, you know, morning routine before you even start to get into a trade. So, make sure you've checked all of the macroeconomic stuff, any news that's coming out, um, anything that might influence the price. Like for example, the ETH merge is coming out on the 13th in 2 days. So, you know, trade responsibly, trade carefully, and try and make that money. But first, before we can make that money, we gotta know what we're doing first, right? So let's dive into the content. All right, remember, guys. First things first. Best thing you can do is zoom out and make sure you know what the primary trend is. Okay, so I came in here this morning and I was like, all right, let me like solidify in my mind what the trend is. And so I came in for the all-time high here. I'm on the daily, and I roll down one touch, two touch. We're coming in for a third touchdown here as my high level trend line. Actually, it's more than that. If you scroll in a little more, yeah, this is real good. So we had like the first touch up here, then we had one confirmation, two, three. Yeah, so it's looking like a pretty solid trend line, right? So then I was like, let me also set the lower levels so I have like, targets that I can work with. And hey, pretty sweet. One touch, a couple of spaces where it did a false break and roll back into the trend. Then we have a nice juicy touch here. So I'm gonna lump those in. So I'll let that slide as my high level. Then I just like labeled it daily downtrend, upper line, daily downtrend, lower line. Hey, all of that is your preference, right? So then after that, I start looking at like, the 4 hour and oops, sometimes, yeah, there we go. And here's what's important about these trend lines, guys. So as you're trying to do these trade setups, right, as you're trying to prep for them, always see where you are in in relation to your trend lines. So if I zoom, make that a little smaller, you can see like the price for Bitcoin is currently coiling up to the top of this trend line. So, given that we're in a downtrend in the bigger time frames, then I'm thinking to myself, yes, the closer we get here is the more opportunity I have to take a short from this trend line, assuming I've got confirmation. If it breaks above it, then that's a change in the trend. But guys, the macroeconomics is pretty craptastic, so I'm not expecting any kind of weird trends. Anyway, so today I was trying to test out the different moving averages, the exponential, the exponential moving average, the weighted exponential, and then just the simple moving averages to see which ones worked out. And, just based off of the way the touches worked, and I'll just quickly show you what I've got here. So I've got the SMA by KGS that I'm using, and I'm basically just showing, for now, I'm using the 50 weighted moving average, and then the 200 weighted moving average. I took a look at them, and I kind of, the exponential was a little bit closer to the weighted, but over time it looked like the weighted moving average would probably work better for me. But definitely test those out for yourselves and see what's up, right? So right now I'm only looking at the 50 and the 200 on the weighted, on with the SMA. And then the other thing I always like to have in terms of indicators is the higher high, lower low, just so I can visualize, easily where, and my kitty's right next to me, so if I'm listing to the side, it's because I'm giving him a little wub wubs. He loves the little wub wubs. Anyway, and then I love the imbalance finder because that gives me areas where I can see potential targets. So for when this comes up here and I get confirmation that it's not going to break the trend line, I can take a nice short. These juicy spots right here will be my targets to take some profit. You know what I'm saying? As we wind our way back down to the bottom of the channel, because you know what they say, right? Unless some big catalyst rolls in, what goes up must come back down. All right, cool, cool. I'm being silly. It's a beautiful day out here, y'all. Well, beautiful as in it's raining cats and dogs in this area. And I'm trying to get used to wearing these dang glasses because, as my optometrist said to me, your eyes have had a few birthdays, huh? I'm like, hmm. I don't know. I find that super funny. But anyway, all right, so check it. And then the other thing I'm testing out is this, and let me grab the name properly, is the Donchian channel. And I think it's kind of like the Bollinger Bands, but not quite. And it's basically like rolling through with not volatility, because there's like the ATR that's doing the volatility, but um, it's like a nice, and I still need to make sure I understand it properly, but it's a nice area where if you see the band is at the lowest area and it's in confluence with your moving averages, then you might feel comfortable taking a trade from that space, right? Um, and the third thing I'm looking at right now, and definitely do your own research around all of these. Like I said, I'm just testing those today, but I wanted to share this with you guys. Put my little receipt thing back on. And the last thing is the ATR, the average true range. And let me see, it doesn't look like it wants to show up on the lower time frames. Ah, there it is. And I may just let me do the auto real quick. All right. And I'll bring that back, so make that cool, cool, cool. And let's spread that out a little bit so we can see it. All right, so the average true range, I believe, is like a combination of the past price action, and we're trying to see what the difference is between the higher and the lower bands for price for that day, right? So if you know what that range is, then you can take a look here and see if it's at the lowest of the range, and then that will give you some indication of volatility, right? So whenever volatility is at its lowest, that might be a good time to think, well, hey, maybe something might be changing, maybe something big is coming. So, I'm still working out the full uses for this thing, but I think it's just a good place to kind of tell where, since we're at like 156, that's getting closer to zero for the range. So once it hits zero, you'd be like, hell no, I'm not going to take a long from this area once it hits zero, right? But, drop it in the comments if I'm saying it wrong, because that happens a lot. My brain disconnects sometimes. I used to say, left, and I'd be pointing right, like, trying to work that out. Anyway, so what I saw this morning was fascinating, and this Don Qian channel is quite nice. I really like it because, and then along with the moving averages. So here's what I've learned, right? So if I go back to the daily really quickly, right? The moving average is above the pricing for the last, well, shoot, I think we crossed over at what's that, 44,964. So the 200-day weighted moving average has been, price has been below it for like since what's that, April 7th, 2022, right? Actually, that's not true. My bad. Hold on, guys. When in doubt, zoom out, right? Back up. So it oscillated for a little bit, but it stabilized and stayed, price stayed below it since December 21. Anyway, so I'm gonna start using the 200-day as like my trend direction, for whatever time frame I'm trading in, right? So for the bigger time frame, we're below the 200, which means we're fully short bias, and it confirms the whole downtrend thing. Awesome. Hope that makes sense. And then I'm also going to be using the 50 as like a target as well. So, you know, if price is hanging out at the 50, stabilizing above it or below it, then that'll give me some idea as to whether or not I can take a long or a short, depending on if it's stabilized above it. I'll take a nice little long. Again, guys, remember your trend lines. Do not go against them, right? If you're coming up, as we are right here, we're coming up on this downward sloping trend line, and we've got a bunch of confirmations that it's a pretty strong one, right? Until the macros change, or well, like, for example, the Fed decides to turn on the money printer, and then it's off to the races, baby. Hopefully by then I've got this stuff like sorted out, and I'm like rock solid trading algorithm. Boom, boom. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so let's roll down to like the 1 hour, right? And let me take the auto off. So on the 1 hour, the 200, which is my white line here, and I've got my 50 as the yellow line because it's kind of really distinctive and I can see it easily. And my eyes are like, yay, Shakira, thank you. Anyway, so I was thinking to myself when I opened up the charts earlier, I was like, all right, so we are trading above the 200 on the 1 hour. And then I was thinking to myself, we've been sitting in these locations for a bit. So I decided to draw two trend lines, one for like the the one with the more touches, and then one above it where it tried to break above and it hasn't been able to break it. And I made myself a quick note here: must break to confirm continuation to top of downtrend, right? And then that will tell me that maybe we have a chance of like oscillating back up to the downward, the major trend line on the daily right here, which somewhere about 22.7 or so approximately. Anyway, but look at what price was doing, and I've just pulled the replay back just for funsies so you guys can see this, right? And at this point, I'm looking at the ATR, and I'm going to use it in two ways, right? There's the possibility of setting your stop loss based off of the ATR, like so. Right now we've got 200 weekly moving average all the way down here. We've been trading above the 50 for a little while, right? Once we hit this break above. So that's telling me that I can still go long, right? There's a potential that maybe something's building, right? Like maybe we're coming up on something. But I'm also thinking to myself, like, we've got these two trend lines up here that I can, use as targets because, we've come back to test this one a few times, this one, once. And then if you zoom off to the right, you'll most likely find other areas where this has been touched as well. So I'm thinking to myself, I could take a quick scalping trade, you know what I'm saying? Like quick, like in and out in less than like 2 hours type of trade. So don't think of this as some daily thing. So I'm seeing support at the 50. It came down, did it perfect, awesome. So I said to myself, I'll just go ahead and enter into a long from here to here. So if I roll over to my Bitget, I entered in at 21,515.50, and I set my, it's really fun, I set my stop loss below the Bollinger Band, well, actually, if I were to use the tool here, so 15, 50, close enough. Okay. So I like to do like a 1%. I don't like to lose more than 1% on a trade. So, set it to like the 1%. It's not exact. Okay, fine, whatever. And then, you know, set it to that line. And it's kind of silly. Well, not 1% because that's not a very big jump. But this tool is a little off. I need to set it up so it reflects like the real world for me. But you could do it that way. Or if you see where the end, and I'll zoom in a little bit here. And actually, let's go down to the 15 minutes. I think I was using that. And let's just readjust. There we go. Right. So this is what I was looking at on the 15 minutes. And it was, yes, I'm sorry. This is what it was looking at. It was 15-minute. It was hovering about the 200. And I was like, perfect. I don't know that I feel like it's going to get any lower than the 200. So let me ride it back all the way up to here. And then I was wondering to myself, like, should I consider going all the way up to this purple line? I was like, nah, let me just take my profits and test to see if we at least get back to here. So I entered in at 21,515, about here. And then, because that 1% is different on everything. So let's see. Pop this tool. Oopsie. Let's use this instead, right? So let's just draw a line here. And let's just make that an entry line. And for my price, 21,515. 21,515. And this will just, situate it in the right place, right? And then I put it underneath this Donchian channel because, as long as it's inside the channel, I feel like, I'm probably not going to get stopped out. So I set my stop loss just under the channel. I think that was about a little less than 1%, but I set it under the channel in the hopes that I'm not going to get, kicked out. And then, of course, up here was my target. And I'll just plop an arrow. So my target was here, this line right here. And let's see how that played out. And I just walked away. Oh, now look how ridiculous that was. That just was like perfect from the 200. Bam, right up into the space. And then it even pinned the top one and then bounced back off. I couldn't close above it. Now, guys, this might have ended up being a longer video than I originally wanted it to be, but I want you to remember 3 things, okay? Make sure that you have some method for entering that trade and an explainable reason for doing it. In this case, I was looking at the 200 weekly moving average. Price had previously, it's been respecting it, right? Even if it bounced under it here, it bounced right back up afterwards. Price had been respecting it. So I was like, you know what? This might be my opportunity to enter into a long. I know it's a small, quick hit, but that just goes to show that even those small, quick hits can work out for you. But remember what I said. Don't go against the higher trend, because remember, and on the 15-minute, that's kind of far away, right? So, I still felt semi-decent taking that. But once the 200 closes over it and starts going in the opposite, and price starts, hanging out underneath it, I'm going to be like, it's time for me to start looking for shorts. So honestly, if I were, for me, while this is playing out here, until it hits this point here, I might, and depending on what price does, but if it keeps coiling up and up and up, once it hits here, at this point is where I'm going to be thinking it's time to try and turn short. But again, I can't just do that because I feel like it's going to do it, right? Feelings have nothing to do with any of this stuff, right, guys? Just remember, if you feel something, you stop right there and walk out the door until you squash that, all right? Fully explainable trades, all right? That's what you need. Fully explainable trades. All right, guys. So that's what I wanted to show you. So quick recap, right? We're using the Donchian channel to kind of track trade movements and potential reversals and all that good stuff, right? And then, and then we're also, and by the way, right, we entered into this trade. Let me zoom in. Let me zoom in. That's why I'm thinking I'm gonna like this Don Chian thing. We were close to the base of this channel when we entered in this trade, which made me feel like, all right, all right. I got the 200, right? I've got um, the 50 above me. I've got a target at this level that's been tested at least twice, and most likely they'll come back to touch it again. So don't just enter into a trade with like one thing. One thing. It's like if you built a house, right? Let's say on an island, if you built a house out of sticks and you didn't give it any foundation, the next big breeze is going to blow it down, right? But if you build your house with proper with the sticks, with foundation, with mortar and all these other things that would make it strong, then that the next big breeze not going to blow it down. It's like the story with the three piggies, right? So think about that when you enter into a trade. Do you have more than one things that makes you feel comfortable in entering that trade? All right. So this was longer than I wanted it to be, but still very helpful. All right, guys, I'm gonna let you guys go. Please, 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 please. If you're new to the channel, I'll say it again: like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below because I want to hear your thoughts. Feel free to correct me on anything I've said wrong. Remember, this is a beginner channel. I'm tracking my journey, learning to trade. So and if this ends up helping anybody else, I would be super. If I say super stoked, would you guys like judge me? don't, don't judge me. I'd be very ecstatic. All right, for realsies, mad ecstatic. Anyway, it's Sunday. What day? I always forget the day. June. No, see, I about to say June. September 11th. Oh, September 11th. All right, guys. For those of you who are recognizing the day for what it is, you know, much respect and much love, um, of course. But all right, guys. So I'm gonna head out. So y'all enjoy the rest of this day. Stay smart. Learn appropriately. Okay. And let's try and make some money together. All right, guys. Shakira out.